right. I should be live. It's always weird. All right, yeah, it's showing live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Privacy Wins. We're going to get started in a couple minutes here. If you're here early, thank you, and thanks for waiting and being one of the first people here for the weekly wins. We do these each Friday, and highly would be appreciated if you could share a link, get more people involved, share it with friends, family, anyone who uses photos, actually, especially if they use Apple Photos or Google Photos, this episode will apply to. So that's going to be the main highlight. And if you're new to the show, the way this works is I kind of have a highlight thing. Hello, Carter. Welcome. Hello. Yes, definitely say hello if you're in the live chat. Would love to see some activity there. To go back to what we're doing, generally I'm going to go through and do some privacy wins and things that people are doing that whether or not there are things that we're trying to do, we're just trying to cheer each other on. And the big wins that I saw, there was 3 different people who mentioned photos alternatives, and they moved to things that are quite a bit better for privacy and security. And so I want to talk about some of those alternatives that they moved to, specifically image, I believe is how you say it. And then some people use Synology photos, and we'll talk about some other alternatives as well. Wow, seeing a lot of highs. Hello, everybody. How you all doing? I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes to just kind of tune in here before I get started with the wins. But how's everyone doing? Definitely go ahead and leave, any feedback on your days. After I'm done streaming, I have a pretty nice running workout that I have. So I'm pretty excited to kind of get back out there and do some good running again. That's kind of what I have, and still have some more work later. And that's about it. I'm very excited as well about the, I don't know if anyone of you saw this already, RCS, the standard for messaging between iOS and Android, theoretically. Apple committed to doing encryption, and I spent a good chunk of today reading through the spec of what that looks like for encryption. So I'm going to try to have a video on that pretty soon for all of you, so you guys can kind of learn about it and you don't have to read through the obnoxiously long PDFs talking about it. Hello, Carter. Hello, Segfault, Kenmen Piano, Jaden, Plasma. You sent me how to pronounce it, and G. And now you can chat for the next 58 minutes. Topodas, Husky, Mr. Plasma, Ismail. I waited so long for this stream. Well, welcome. We are starting in just a couple minutes. Time zones are funny. Yes, currently in Pacific time, so actually it's the same time as I've been starting these each week, 2 p.m., but we had a time change last week, so now it's been pushed, I believe, an hour for everybody else. So if it's a different time than it normally is for all of you, it's because of the silly time zones that we have in the US and in a lot of other places. It's not like a US issue, but all right, we got 50 people, so why don't we go ahead and start talking about this here. And again, just to kind of break this down, leave your wins, leave your comments. I'll be kind of dealing with the wins and going through our forum first, but then after I'm done with that, I'm going to go back and scroll through all your comments. So welcome aboard, and let's dive right into it. So, believe it or not, I'm sorry, Terrence, you are not the highlight this week, but we will get to you. So kind of the first person, there was, again, 3 commenters who brought up photos, and that is the highlight of this week. So the first person is Grand External, and they're new to the forum, so welcome, and good reminder that if you are watching this, definitely check out the forum in the description so you can join next week's wins. It's already live, so you can already leave your wins right now in the forum. And I'm glad that you agreed with my take on politics and privacy because it's a bipartisan issue. So they have decoupled from subscription services, which I think is great, and we're going to talk more about their wins. But I really want to just focus on the highlight before we touch on their other stuff later, which is they moved their Apple and Google Photos to Synology Photos. They've had a NAS for years but had no idea what it was capable of, which is so kind of relatable. So I did that Synology review, was it like a year or 2 years ago now? And I had Gorujo. There we go, Gorujo. Did I get it? But when I got this review unit, Synology didn't tell me anything. The terms were we're gonna ship this to you, no strings attached, and we agree to you to do an unbiased review. You can tear it to shreds, which is kind of the terms that I have for every review unit. I tell them, hey, here are our review unit protocols. We're going to tear it to shreds if there's something wrong with it, and you have to be okay with that. And it was the most overwhelming review unit I'd ever received, because I got this NAS and there's like a million things you can do, and knowing where to start is really tough. And I will say that Photos was one of the best things to like kind of start on. So if you have a NAS, definitely explore Photos. It doesn't have to be Synology. You can host things like Nextcloud as well on these things, and we'll also talk about Image in a sec as well. And all of these things you should be able to get going on a NAS or some kind of permanent device at home. And I think a NAS is one of the easiest ways to do it, but you can theoretically do this with a VPS or many other tools out there. And I think Synology Photos is really solid if you're buying Synology for whatever reason, but if you're not buying Synology, I'm going to scroll down, and Cubic here, who's a Techlorian, so they support us, which is just awesome, so thank you, Cubic. They're self-hosting Image to replace Google Photos. So I guess I should back up here before I kind of touch on some of these alternatives. Why wouldn't you use Google Photos or Apple Photos? Especially when Apple Photos now, you can get end-to-end encryption with ADP, which actually isn't a terrible middle ground, but you have to actually enable that end-to-end encryption. So the issue, and the biggest issue, is that there is no end-to-end encryption by default with these photo providers, which means that Apple and Google can both directly access your photos if they choose to. So you're putting a lot of trust in these companies. Apple, I would guess, is a little bit better about respecting your privacy than Google is, which I have very little faith will respect very much of your privacy, though I also just prefer zero trust solutions because you shouldn't have to trust Apple to not do something naughty with your photos. So I think already a step up for any of you listening is if you're in the Apple Photos ecosystem, enable ADP, assuming you're outside the UK, and you should be able to get end-to-end encryption and keep all the features. And actually, it still has all the features because it scans locally on your phone. So when your phone is plugged in and low power mode is disabled, it'll actually scan through all your photos and generate faces and generate all the stuff on device. Super cool feature. But even then, the problem that I still have with Apple Photos specifically, and Google Photos as well, is you're still locked into this ecosystem, right? Apple Photos is only really compatible on Apple devices. They don't have an Apple Photos app for Android. They don't make it easy for you to share your photos with other people. They don't make it easy for you to own your photos. They want it to stay in the Apple Photos ecosystem. And the benefit that you get from something like Synology Photos is they essentially add this beautiful wrapper on top of just your photos existing in your own file system on a hard drive that you have at home. Yet they make it accessible and still function very, very similar to what you'll find with Apple Photos and Google Photos. So if you have Synology, that's a great option. And then Image as well is going to solve a lot of these problems, which is you get to host your own thing. And I frankly think Image is great. I haven't personally used Image, but a lot of people really enjoy it. And Cubic, again, has tried it out. And some people in the live chat, even before I joined, even said they used Image as well. So it's something that's still in active development. Expect bugs and changes. They literally say it on the top of their website. And they even say do not use it as your only way to store your photos and videos. So again, always have a backup for all of these services. But I highly recommend checking these out and trying to find better alternatives to photos. And also be kind to yourself because it takes a long time to migrate photos to other platforms. The last kind of alternative that was not brought up in the privacy wins this week that I think is good to introduce is there is Ente Photos as well. Ente Photos is the closest thing to just an Apple Photos or Google Photos that does all the work for you. It's not self-hosted, you don't have to deal with the data yourself, and it's end-to-end encrypted, so you kind of have like Apple's ADP, but with a company that's dedicated to bringing you something both open source and cross-platform. You can use Ente Photos on Linux, you can use it on Android, you can use it on the web, so there's lots of, it's a bit more resilient than Apple Photos. And with that said, if you have any other suggestions or alternatives, let me know. You can always use a cloud provider as your photos provider, like Proton Drive kind of supports photos, but I personally don't think that's truly a replacement to something like Apple or Google Photos, whereas the options I just covered with you all are going to be better in line with that. And I want to give a massive shout out to Cubic and also, why am I blanking on the first one's name? Grand External. I want to thank both of them for kind of sharing their experiences with this. And if you're in the live chat, let me know what photos solution that you go with, and maybe you'll throw something out that I haven't heard of before. Yeah, let's see. So yeah, ignore my chance as LF image. I have it running on my Kubernetes cluster, being all fancy as I am. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty fancy setup. What do you guys also use for photos? Do any of you use Ente, E-N-T-E, the name of the app, Ente here? Yeah, let me just, here, just so I can make this abundantly clear for all of you all. So just to kind of outline the options, you have Synology Photos if you have your own NAS. You can always use Nextcloud Photos as well in your NAS if you prefer Nextcloud. Then there's Ente, which I'd say is like the most accessible, easiest to use, end-to-end encrypted. You can self-host Ente as well, I believe. If someone could fact check that, going off the top of my head on that one, but I'm pretty sure you can also self-host Ente. And then you also have Image as well. And you can run this on an old computer, you can run it on a NAS. I personally try to opt for a NAS if possible. And those are the options. So now let's go scroll back up and start going through the wins. Again, you can join next week's thread. It's already live, so if you want to be a part of the stream next week and have yourself featured, just join the forum down in the description, free to join, and just go ahead and leave your wins. So Unknown Ghost is a regular. They are very active, and they started using Olive Editor for video editing. They weren't doing that before because audio was crap, and it turns out all you had to do is switch the backend to Jack to fix it. It still uses C++, so it sometimes dies with no explanation, and I might consider rewriting the whole thing in Rust at some point in the future. Yeah, so I did pull up Olive Video Editor, if you guys haven't heard of it before. It seems extremely simple. I don't think Olive is designed to be like an Adobe Premiere replacement or a DaVinci Resolve replacement, but I think it still seems pretty good and might be good enough for any of you who might be working on home projects or even something semi-professionally. And it seems to be open source and more towards freedom, which Premiere and Resolve aren't open source, though at least Resolve is supported on Linux. So I think it's a decent middle ground for some of you out there who want something that's still professional but supported across operating systems. So yeah, really cool stuff, and shout out. I'd love to hear what you came from and what you use it for. So definitely don't feel free to leave as many details as you guys want on your wins, because it helps me understand the wins a little bit better too. Someone asked if I watch terrestrial television. I don't. I actually didn't grow up with any TV really, and I don't regret that. I normally would read, or we did eventually have, I guess, what's it called? I don't know, the home, a DVR thing. I don't even know, but we never used it. I did have DVDs that I could play in a DVD player at some point, but never live television. It was never a thing I really grew up with. So yeah, this isn't really a Q&A. You guys are free to ask me questions, but normally I leave the Q&A for the live chat. So normally the thread is for wins. Austin said they're making their own Firefox add-on site. So if you make progress on that, definitely share it. And they're using a custom domain for email for personal use. Congrats. I know I talked about that a few weeks ago about why you should use a custom domain for your email and the kind of benefits that can provide. So if you want some inspiration, I think what Austin did is really good. And it's a huge step in reclaiming some ownership over your email. Because when you have your own custom domain and it's yours, if you don't like what your email provider does, whether it's Google, Proton, etc., you can just migrate your domain to something else, and you don't have to update all your contacts and logins and everything. You can just pick up and leave if something turns to crap. So huge step forward for your long-term resilience. Mohammed put together a blog, so there's that. Dawn deleted their GasBuddy account. I just want to make something clear. I've never used GasBuddy. I'm just going to make the assumption that GasBuddy is not the most privacy respecting service. A lot of these services have to use your local location, and they might have tons of trackers. I'm guessing ads as well. These are all assumptions. I could be completely wrong on those, but I haven't used GasBuddy before. And they made it this account to just do, just to complain about a single station that lies about gas prices. And then they gave up and haven't used it since. Good riddance. And actually later on in the bottom, because someone asked, any alternatives for finding the best prices, Dawn actually expands way down at the bottom and says that what they do is they just access it through the website now. And for me, this is a huge, huge, huge reminder. So listen up, people. I want everybody who listens to this live stream, here, just to show I'm serious. Whoa, see, I'm bigger now because I'm serious, getting down. So if you're watching this live stream and you have nothing to do this weekend or nothing to do tonight, the one thing I want everybody to do, go into their phones and just go through their list of apps. You know, if you're on an iPhone, just scroll all the way over, tap the search icon, and you'll have a full list of your apps. If you're on Android, you just scroll down and then you can search for your apps or just get a full list. Go through each app. You don't have to even open the app. I just want you to go through your list of apps and kind of just assess, oh, is this something that I can move to the web? Is this privacy invasive in any way? So for example, you're all on YouTube most likely watching this, and YouTube has a pretty decent mobile app. And actually, if you use YouTube's mobile site in something like Brave browser, you get ads blocked and you can use background YouTube playback. And it gives you some YouTube premium features for free if you just use the mobile site. And in doing so, you actually gain better privacy. And then sometimes you gain better security as well by just keeping it in your web browser. So I'm personally a big fan of moving things towards web apps, and it gives you more control because your browser probably blocks trackers and has other permission benefits so that the app doesn't get as many permissions to your phone and collect as much data about you. And I think, you know, Don is going after GasBuddy here, which is not a service I've used, but there's millions of apps like this that don't really need to be an app, and you can still access it in the site on your phone. So if you're able to move, just try. You know, you don't even have to delete the app. Just try to use a web app or use the mobile site and just see if it's good. Use it for some time, and if it's good enough, you'll actually gain a lot of benefit by deleting the app. And you could get better battery life, you'll have a cleaner phone, it'll use less storage space, and it's better for your privacy. And you'll have a bit more control over things in the process. So that's my pro tip and kind of my homework for any of you listening who want something fun to do this weekend. Shouldn't take that long either. Back to the wins. Let's see. And now we're going to kind of go back to Grand External. We already talked about the Apple Google Photos earlier on, so if you're just tuning in now, it's already been covered back then. But Grand External said they're decoupling from subscription-based services. They're reducing their price tiers or going off them altogether when an alternative presents itself. I don't think I need to speak about this too much. I think everybody's getting very fed up with subscriptions, and that's a very common complaint I'm seeing everywhere. It's pretty popular and not a hot take anymore. Personally, I think that just doing these audits occasionally is really good. So kind of like what they're saying, log in, check your bank statements, see what subscriptions you have. If you think you have 3, you probably have 5. If you have 5, you probably have 8. There's always 1 or 2 things you always forget about when you make a list of subscriptions. So go through them, start with what you can just outright remove or replace with something better. And sometimes you have to be creative with this, right? If you're paying for a streaming service, maybe you can go ahead and open a library card and see what streaming services your library gives you for free. If you have an ebook service, same thing. You can rent pretty much any book for free from your library, even to an e-reader. Most e-readers now have integrations with your library. There's lots of little tips like this. I made a video recently called How Enshittification Ruins Tech, and it kind of covers a lot of these concepts and things to try. Also, if you still need a service, see if you can downgrade it and work within different limitations. You know, that's another option as well. So generally speaking, I'm all for it. I'm all for you guys, keeping more money in your pocket, having more financial ownership. It's one of the reasons why, of course, we need to exist. And so we still have Patreon, Techlorians, you can still support what we do. But on our forum now, you'll see that we have just one-time support options as well, because I'm personally not someone who thinks that everything should be a subscription. So I'm always going to try to fight for having lifetime / one-time purchase options as well. So highly upvoted by me. And Grand External said that was a great video. Shared it with my family. So awesome. And that's the same person on the forum. So great to see you in the live chat. It's cool to see you guys engage on the forum and the live chat. And I hope that we can make this a thing that is a consistent weekly thing. So the next win here is harden our digital footprint. They replaced their decades-old spreadsheet of simple passwords, deleted old and unused accounts, and removed non-required personal information from the rest, deleted auto payments and payment methods on file. Yes, so this is homework maybe for the month for some of you. But something that is good to do is what they've suggested, which is going through ideally you just have a password manager, so you go through like list by list, see if there's any information you can update to be alias information, migrate your email to a simple login email or ADIO or DuckDuckGo, Firefox, whatever you use. Update passwords if you still have an insecure password from before you started using the password manager. A lot of times, this is a big one, services will add new multi-factor options that they didn't used to have. Like a lot of services a few years ago that I have didn't have MFA, and now they do. And they don't, MFA is not exciting, guys. So they're not going to do like a whole email blog post and, you know, blast on their socials. Hey guys, we got MFA, everybody set up MFA. You know, maybe privacy and security services will, but realistically most services don't. And the only way to know they did is to just log in and check once in a while. And a lot of times when you go into these accounts, you'll see, oh, this is an old address. Oh, wait, they don't even require an address. So you can just delete it altogether. And you'll have a lot of moments like that if you go through that process. So highly recommend doing that, but it's a far more involved chore than what I recommended earlier, which is to go through your apps and you know, just find things to move to a mobile site or a web app. So congrats to you for doing that, because I know it's a ton of work. It's something I tend to do every several months on my end, and it always feels good when I do it. So like, don't think that it's just like all bad, because when you're done with it, I feel like you just feel like you're on top of the world until you have to do it again in another 3 months. But it's kind of like when you like clean your house and everything's just super clean and in the right place and you feel good and everything's nice, and then, you know, a week later it's you gotta do it again. They also reduced tracking avenues, like moving away from Microsoft, Google, and Apple. It sounds like you had a really big like January / February. So like big win to you and your wife. I mean, that's like big stuff. Sometimes this stuff like individually takes people 2 months. Like each of these can take 2 months. So like huge progress, and I'm really impressed. So congrats. And then some more little wins just to showcase. Moved Google Workspace email to Proton Duo. Proton Duo is like their 2-person plan. So if you're in a relationship or if you have a bestie that you want to share it with, then check out Proton Duo. Move to Synology Notes. I actually think it might be the biggest win of this whole thing, because man, I tried Synology Notes and whew, can't say I loved it, but I'm proud of you for moving away from Evernote, and still it seems to be good enough. And it was like simple enough that I think for most people it would work, but it wasn't my favorite notes program personally, but there's like 10 other notes programs that you could probably use on a NAS as well. So even if that doesn't work for one of you listening, there are things like standard notes. Of course, there's NotesNook as well, which sponsors, you know, Techlore, but like genuinely a great service that I can highly recommend. And then Synology Notes. Nextcloud has some notes that you can use as well. Crypty's probably like one of my favorites. It's all web-based, and I love it. Oh, they updated Synology Notes. That's good. Okay, so it's probably better than last time I used it, because last time I used it, Synology Notes was a no-go. So I need to go ahead and get updated on that. You flashed some custom operating systems, which is awesome. And you did not install social apps, which is also a huge win. Switched your whole family to Signal. Yeah, you know, I have a question for you, Grand External, especially since you're in the live chat. What was it like moving your family to these things? Like, what do they just go along with it? Like, did you have to convince them? Like, what kind of made them kind of go along the journey with you? Because a common thing I hear on my end all the time is someone says, you know, I love what I do, like I'm trying to go on this journey, but you know, X number of family members don't understand why I'm doing it and won't go along the journey with me. So if you can share a little bit, either, you know, maybe put it in the privacy wins thread and I can comment on it next week, or if you just want to put it in the live chat, I think that would actually be really helpful for other people. So yeah, I definitely, like, you deserve kind of the love that you got, because those are like so many things. Yeah, see, like Ricardo says, my family will never. So I think, yeah, it'd be really interesting to see like how you kind of did that with your family. That's something that's very sought after and something I get a lot of questions about. Emails, comments, DMs, like across the board. All right, we got Nix, and they switched over their SO from Overdrive to Synology Drive and Synology Photos on both her phone and PC. It was also causing her issues for quite some time. Synology itself is way less in the way. Super cool. We've already talked about Synology Photos and all the different photo alternatives earlier in the beginning of the video, so if you want to check that out, that was the highlight. And this is just one more person who saw some luck over there, so I thought the good theme of this week was like photo alternatives, and it just lines up with a lot of your guys' wins. So congrats to your SO, and I'd be curious to know if that's what you use as well, because you said that your SO moved to those, but yeah. I'll check other Synology apps with her and see what we may use, like Synology Notes, so she doesn't lose any data from local apps on her devices. Thinking about buying a cheap single-bay Synology NAS for Synology, Drive ShareSync, and also, or maybe that meant Synology. Yeah, so overall it just sounds like you're trying to like play with the Synology ecosystem. Now, I want to give some, we're going to go back. I want to give some of my personal thoughts again on self-hosting. You do not need to self-host things to gain measurable amounts of privacy and security. So I don't want the takeaway from this live stream to be, oh, I use OneDrive, I use Evernote, I use Apple Photos, I use Google Photos, but I can't move to something better because I don't know how to self-host something. First, I promise you that people like Synology make it super easy, so you could learn if you really wanted to, but that's not the point I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make here is that self-hosting is not a requirement to still move to better services. So in the example of Notes, I already talked about standard Notes, Notesnook, even Proton Docs at this point might be good enough for some people. I really like Lunatask recently, which I made a whole review of that. There's Crypty as well, which is phenomenal and probably one of my favorite services. It's all web-based and such a clean interface, and huge fan of John, and like John and I are great friends. So there's a great amount of services. None of those are self-hosted that I just listed. So, and all of those, I don't even remember all the ones I just listed. I believe all the ones I listed are open source, have some layer of end-to-end encryption. Lunatask is not open source, so there's that. But most are open source. Almost all have end-to-end encryption, if not all the ones I listed have end-to-end encryption, and all will be a measurable improvement for your privacy, for your resilience, and all of them are in some ways cross-compatible across multiple operating systems. Whereas if you use something like OneDrive, Microsoft does try to bring those to other operating systems, but some of the tools like Apple Photos don't really exist on different operating systems outside of Apple's ecosystem. Or they make sharing hard with people outside of their own ecosystem. So I just want to make it clear, self-hosting is awesome because it puts the control in your court, but you don't need to self-host to still pick better services. So pick kind of the route you want to go, and you can do both, right? Like you can try self-hosting on the side and use better services and see which ones work best for you. Personally, I found a hybrid approach to be best. I personally don't love self-hosting photos. They're heavy, and then you have to worry about like connecting to them and being able to fetch them and upload them quickly, which is hard to do. So I actually prefer some centralized services that host it for me for certain things, but for other things, I just self-host myself. So again, try to keep it as a hybrid approach because most people aren't going to be all or nothing with what they choose to self-host versus not self-host. And that is my rant about self-hosting. Try to do it if you can, but there's still other ways to get most of the benefits. Back to the wins. Also, last week, I promised you guys, last week, I'm going to have a space ready to go in OBS so I can just switch between being big and being small. Being big and being small. And it's here. And I gotta say, it makes my life a hell of a lot easier. So, Terrence got their OpenWRT1 router. This was a big one last week as well. I know Jordan had their win last week with also their OpenWRT router, and I think a different person did as well. It works great, had a little hiccup, but with the help of the OpenWRT community, they were able to resolve it. So apparently they bricked their router, and the community helped them. So I'm glad it's no longer bricked and you're actually able to use it now. So congrats. And if you have never heard of OpenWRT, it's open source router firmware. So you can do whatever you want on your router. It's open source. It's got some nice privacy and security features as well. So definitely if you're ever trying, like if you're listening to this and you are able to, try to get a custom router that supports OpenWRT. It's not like the most difficult thing to install, and it comes with some pretty cool perks that you're not going to find from the regular router that comes with your ISP. I am going to go up to your pronunciation, which you left earlier. And please keep leaving comments and wins, because I will go through and engage with you all once I am done with the wins, which there aren't that many left. It was a lighter week. Garujo. Garujo is a regular and a Techlorian and very active in our Signal group, our little private Signal group. So if you want to join that Signal group, it's accessible if you join our Patreon or on Techlorians on the forum. So you can find that on the forum or on Patreon. But they got their uncle, who would back up photos to Overdrive or OneDrive, to now use Filein to do so. He initially was backing up to OneDrive. He started having frustrating issues. Seems like everyone's having issues with OneDrive, and I think it's funny when like some of the privacy and security services work better than their mainstream counterparts. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna get a pronunciation on Signal from Garujo, so there we go. Now, for most, this might be an odd choice, but I had to use its lifetime plan as a bargaining chip, so I had higher chances of convincing them so. On top of its generous 10 gigs plus 10 more when referring to them, in my opinion, it makes for the best bargaining chip among the encrypted cloud storage providers. So while the rest of his files are on OneDrive, at least the photos are stored encrypted. I could have convinced him to use Ente, but on top of it only starting at 5, there's no bargaining chip I could use with Ente photos. But hey, if it works, it frickin' works. So congrats. Definitely would love to hear. You're in the live chat. So does Filein have, I think I asked this already like 2 weeks ago in one of the last live streams. Does Filein have like native like photo features like Google Photos? Like does it sort by faces? Can you do albums? Can you sort by location? Or is it more like what Proton does? Where, you know, they'll do like thumbnail previews and you can do uploads and they'll have like a way to like sort by photos, but it's not quite Google Photos, Apple Photos. Definitely would love to hear. Because then Filein could be another option for us to kind of just suggest as another option for people. But I think the main like takeaway from your story, which I want to be the takeaway for everybody here, every person is going to click with something different. I mean, I think like in my mind, some things are just flat out better, right? Like I'm like, this is better without a doubt. And yeah, that's my opinion, but I'm not wrong about my opinion, right? Like there's some things I'm just that sure about in terms of like user experience. And then I talk with someone and they go, no, I hate it. I think this is better and this would actually speak more to me. But you know what? Both of the options, the one I like and the one that they like, actually are an improvement for their privacy, security, or whatever they're chasing after than what they're currently on. So I think the takeaway for your story is that yeah, you even said, like, I think Ente might be better, but for whatever reason, like, Filein is what they clicked with, and that's what clicks with them. So either way, they're winning. They're getting something better out of it, and they're going to be better off. So try when you suggest tools to people, and this is a just general takeaway and something I've had success with as well, instead of recommending, like, yes, you can recommend a specific tool, right? Like, you can say, hey, let's move to Signal if you're on WhatsApp. But sometimes it's also better to pose it as, hey, let's move to something more private. And that way, yes, like Signal is a solution to the problem, but it could be something else. They say, oh, well, I actually found this other messenger. You want to try that instead? And yeah, maybe, you know, you're not going to use Signal. Maybe you're going to use Session or SimpleX. And maybe they're going to use Session and go, yeah, I don't like this. Let's actually try Signal instead. But typically, there's an option that speaks more to a specific person. And I think if you get in the way of that process of them experimenting with something that seems interesting to them, I think that actually works against the long-term goal. So even if you know, like deep down, it's not going to be good, let them do it. I have a personal story in our coaching that I work with individual people on. There was a client that I worked with pretty early on. This was like several years ago with the coaching. And they were debating between Proton and Tuda. And back then, based on what they were communicating to me, I told them Proton would be hands down a better option. There were some usability things that Tuda just did not have. Back then it was Tuda Noda. But they said, no, like we like Tuda, we like the company, we want to use them. And I said, okay, so we're gonna go ahead and work ahead. I'm gonna modify your plan to accommodate Tuda. They used Tuda, and then within like a week, I was starting to get complaints. ultimately, I don't know if they decided to stick with Tuda or if they eventually moved back to Proton, but like they got to try something that they wanted to try, and ultimately that email provider was still a better option. And as long as they know that they made the choice, I think that it's good that they felt like they were in control rather than you trying to control them and what they decide. So just something to think about. And it could be an educational moment for both you and the other person. So just a tip. Starting to share the article M at Privacy Guides made recently. This is slowly the one I shared. And yeah, it's an article that they wrote about privacy is also protecting the data of others. So kind of like moving away from the privacy is just about keeping myself safe and also thinking about how your privacy impacts others. So if you want to check that out, it is in the thread. We already covered Cubic. Brilliant Dime, I believe, is the last one. And they said, after I decluttered my house, I went to an electronic waste drop-off to recycle my old hardware. It felt good. I used encryption on my old hard drives before, thanks to my past self. Now I can live comfortably knowing my data is safe even after its end of life. And honestly, that is such a good point because I've never thought to use like full disk encryption as potentially a like e-waste solution. So, you know, for those who are like less familiar with hard drive security, almost anybody who uses a hard drive that doesn't have encryption, and sounds like I missed something, so I'll get back to that. But let me finish this one up first. So if you have a hard drive and you store sensitive data on it, you can delete that data, but there's still like markers to that data essentially, like it's not fully removed. And so this is why a lot of people like destroy a hard drive or they'll try to wipe their drives before they give it up. But ultimately that data, especially on traditional hard drives, is kind of always there in a way. And all you can do is kind of make it harder and harder and harder and harder to access again. Restarting your operating system won't really change much here. There's tools that you have to use to like actually wipe these drives. This is mostly a non-issue though if you get ahead of the game and you encrypt your drives, because then all the data is already encrypted. So there is no like easy data recovery. So encrypt your drives. I think it's actually great. It's going to give you so much peace of mind down the road, just like Brilliant Dime said. It's going to give you that peace of mind down the road when you inevitably sell your devices. And you can just say, yo, like I can just like factory reset the device, factory reset the hard drive, and that's all I need to do because I had full disk encryption. And that's kind of how phones are, right? Like with a phone, you can go ahead and just factory reset it. It has encryption, and the recovery key and the encryption key for the encryption gets reset when you factory reset, and that's pretty much it. Or, you know, like maybe in an edge case, someone's able to use some insane forensics tool to individually target you, but if you're just selling it on Craigslist, it's going to be safe. So you can replicate that on your desktop, encrypt your drives. It will make your life a lot easier. And then apparently I missed something. Let's see, what did I miss? I missed something from your comment. Before this, I also reinstated their Signal Messenger as they somehow logged out after recovering from backup. Signal didn't properly log in, so they had to redo it, but hey, I'm able to contact them here now. Okay, cool stuff. Yeah. Yeah, lots of good wins this week. Like good wins over here. A ton of people are like getting other people on different photo platforms, and I'm like frankly very surprised by that because I feel like that's one of the last things that people want to deal with because it's just so much data and it's something that's so like sensitive and it's not something people want to change. So I don't know. I'm really impressed with you guys. Good job. I don't think personally moved anyone that I know over to like an Apple or Google Photos alternative myself. So yeah, that's like nowhere near one of the top things that I'm able to have success with. So really impressed. So good job. And I think that's all I have. Let me go ahead and check XMR chat as well to see if any of you guys left questions on our XMR chat. If you've never seen this, let me hide myself. Whoop. xmrchat.com, you can just go here. You just type Techlore, and what you can do is you can go ahead and just leave us a question with Monero. So if you ever want to ask a question and be like prioritized, I'll go ahead and prioritize anything here on XMR chat. You can also leave a super chat on YouTube, and I'll get to any of your questions first if you want to do a little Q&A. But this is with Monero, so you just select however much you want to tip, send us some Monero, and then you can leave a question, and it's a pretty darn anonymous way to do things. So just a little shout out to XMR chat. And with that said, we're now open to the live chat. We got through all the wins. And this is your final, not your final, I'm gonna remind you again, let's be real. But this is another reminder that the next week's wins are already live. So let me just quickly show you that. If you just go to discuss.techlore.tech, and then you just scroll down a little bit, you're gonna see in the pinned chat, there's the week 46 of the privacy wins. And there are already some people who have left their wins. So you can go ahead and join this already, and I will be showcasing those next week. And now the live chat. Let's see what you guys got for me. Got a lot of heys. I already said hey back to most of you when I joined. Reach out to whoever's responsible for that. That's not something I have any control over. Thoughts on Trezor? I don't have that many thoughts on Trezor. It's not a service I've used. A lot of people really like it. I've heard a lot of positive things, so I don't have a reason to discourage you from at least trying it out and seeing if it works for you. First time catching this live, awesome. Yeah, the time moved. You know, we had a time change in Pacific time, so it's the same time for me, yeah, I hope that time works better for all of you, and I hope it didn't make it worse for someone else who can't make it anymore. Anchor likes what they see. Let's see. Blood Moon woke me up early this morning. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Hi all. Hello, Grand External. Grand External was one of the main highlighted people for the question, so congrats again. Let's see, I stopped using cloud backup a long time ago for photos. Yeah, what do you use alternative to that? Like, do you keep it on your hard drive? Like, do you just have a NAS at home? Like, what's your alternative? I mean, because it's hard to do the whole, like, no cloud if you want to have, like, 3 backups of your data. You know, the 3-2-1 rule. It's hard to do that without the cloud. So if you have a way to do that, definitely share how you do it. Answered this already. No need to leave multiple questions for things I go through. I use Ente photos for temporary backup and then store them offline. Really cool. Yeah, and that's a good side effect too for some of these services. If they're just a backup to you, then that's cool as well. Yeah, I do not know how to speak Japanese, nor do I know the Japanese pronunciation. So I'm more than happy to hear your pronunciation. I don't have Signal open on any of my devices. I already have like a million screens just to do this live stream. But after the live stream, I'll go ahead and check in our Signal group chat to see how you pronounce it. Yeah, yeah. Sorry about that one. I hope that anyone who's subscribed to the channel has already seen my coverage that I did for the end-to-end encryption fiasco in the UK. There still isn't any update on that. Context, UK government told Apple you need to backdoor your encryption. They didn't like the fact that Apple was having this advanced data protection program where you can get end-to-end encryption for pretty much the whole iCloud suite. Behind the scenes, they said, Apple, you need to backdoor this. They said no. And at the same time, Apple did start filing some legal complaints trying to fight it. So that is the last that we left off on it. Unfortunately, the courts where they're challenging this, I don't believe are public courts. So they might have already finished fighting this out. We don't know. This is something that is very, like, not opaque. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, I agree. It's really unfortunate. We're seeing end-to-end encryption like attacked like so many places right now. We saw France attacking this recently, Sweden attacking messengers recently, UK. India had something as well that I just saw yesterday with encrypted, I think, email. So kind of all over right now. We're seeing a ton of attacks on encryption, so we need to stay really vigilant about this stuff. Let's say, hard to say without voice recording. Yeah, you know, Signal does voice recordings, and I know you guys in the Signal group have got some of my voice recordings, so if you're comfortable sharing your voice, definitely do that. I love image. I have it running on your cluster. Yep, I already remember responding to that earlier. Yeah, I disable links. Like if you allow links on any YouTube comments, I know it sucks because like a lot of times you want to share a link and it's legitimate, but just trust me on this one. If I don't toggle the YouTube comment thing of like, you know, don't allow links, like the whole comment section is literally just spam with just links to just garbage platforms. It's like, just trust me, like it's better, but it does come with the consequence of people who actually want to share a link genuinely and in good faith. Like it does suck. I do agree. Let's see. Ente Photos is great. However, Ente Auth doesn't want to work for me. What issues did you have? I actually use Ente Auth. It's like my new TOTP app, and it's been working for me on every platform I've tried it. So I adore it, but definitely would love to hear what issues you had. I back up external drives, offline and encrypted. Always an option. Again, just make sure you have backups. So you have to find a way to, you know, duplicate your encrypted data and store that off-site somewhere. Just it requires quite a bit more DIY. I use iCloud Photos with ADP mostly because of the price and convenience. And honestly, like, I think that's not a bad place to be. I've said this before and I'll say it again, even in light of the UK stuff, I think that the UK stuff should remind us that when you use iCloud or something from a big tech company, especially Apple, which locks things down into their ecosystem, it doesn't necessarily lack security, it just lacks resilience. It means that you're not going to be able to access your data as easily on Android or on the web, or really be able to share your data with other people. And you know, you never know the direction Apple's going to take things. And so there's a big amount of trust that you're giving a centralized company, and that is a drawback. With that said, I completely agree that to this day, I stand by this because I think it's objectively true. Like, there is no better balance out there of like usability to like price to security that you can get from iCloud with advanced data protection, because you're getting like next level, like you're getting like what's regarded by many people as like a solid notes program. You're getting what's regarded by many people as one of the best photos programs. You're getting like all of Apple's health stuff, which is also regarded as top notch. You're getting like backups to your phone that are also going to be end-to-end encrypted by like literally the cleanest, most smooth backup process out there. That is definitely not a debate, because I think Apple just has beat everybody in terms of like backup and restores, to the point where you can throw your phone in a lake, grab a new phone, restore it, and it works just like your last phone did. And that kind of continuity is just really lacking in Android. I know Google's starting to get that, but even Google's isn't, in my opinion, quite as good. Anyway, my point is, it's not a terrible place to be for the price, for the convenience that you're getting. And I think if every Apple user just enabled ADP, it would actually make a huge difference for privacy and security. But it doesn't quite solve those resilience concerns of like being able to, you know, have an open ecosystem. So be aware of the issues. If you use iCloud ADP, not a bad place to be, but have backups in mind in case things go sour and some crazy stuff happens, like what happens in the UK. So that's my personal take and advice on it. But do what you feel is best. And if you just want to avoid it like the plague because it's Apple, then by all means, like definitely do that. Just, I think it is still not a bad place to be though. Someone did confirm that Ente is available for self-hosting, so thank you for confirming. I use Resolve. I use Resolve as well. That's how I edit everything for Techlore. Is there a certain NAS and brand that's optimal towards privacy? Most of them are, to be frank. Like, there are open source firmwares that you can install as well if you want to have something that's open source and more DIY. I think personally, like, I've done the analysis myself. I use Synology. They have some opt-in telemetry as well that you like can use, but I think it's off by default if I'm not mistaken. and they ask you very clearly when you're setting it up. And even if you like opt into that, I still wouldn't call Synology like not a privacy respecting organization. They do a pretty good job, and fortunately, most of these NAS providers make money from hardware. So they're not really incentivized to sell out their users. And obviously, I think they know they have a technical user group that's self-hosting, and they are trying to get away from privacy concerns in the first place. So there's a lot in it for these NAS companies to respect your privacy. That's not to say all of them are made equal, but my point is I don't think there's one specific brand you need to chase after. Most of them can be made or already come out of the box overall more respecting to your privacy than the alternatives. Yes. Okay, so if anyone's tried Resolve on Linux, you're going to know their Linux support isn't fantastic. They only formally have support for CentOS and Red Hat Linux. That's it. That's all they have formal support for. What that means, this is important, is if you spend the, $300 to buy Resolve Studio, and you use it on Fedora or Ubuntu or Linux Mint, and you have issues with it, and you're part of a team, and you contact DaVinci Resolve for support, they're going to tell you, screw off. You're not using an officially supported operating system, so we can't help you. That's a big problem if you're using it for professional software. It's one of the reasons why we have Resolve Studio and we pay for a lot of the software that we use for our content, is because if anything goes wrong, we have people that can help us to make sure we still get content out. And so that's really important when you're running something a little bit more professionally. So if that's not you though, there's an Arch, there's something in the R, someone's already pre-compiled Resolve to work with Arch. I know there was someone who set it up on Ubuntu. I previously myself set it up on Fedora, which wasn't terrible since Fedora isn't too far away from CentOS and Red Hat. So there's ways to get Resolve to work, but I fully agree their Linux support is realistically, let's be real, it's 50% Linux support. They did not go all the way and give you full Linux support, but they give you Linux support that's possible to set it up on Linux. I covered my thoughts on 2FAS compared to Aegis last week. I actually don't even think these are really comparable, mainly because Aegis is only for Android. And last I checked, doesn't have any cloud syncing, it's only offline. I believe you can use 2FAS in the same fashion, right? You can use it offline as well. But it's cross-platform, iOS, Android, I think even desktop, and it works through a browser extension. So I would actually be a little bit more inclined to say that 2FAS should be compared to Ente Auth. That seems like a more valid comparison. I think Aegis is more for somebody who wants just an offline, Android-only TOTP app, and they're fine with that. And even then, you could still argue that you can use 2FAS or Ente Auth instead. But honestly, it doesn't matter. All of these platforms allow you to export and import into the other ones. So as long as you're not using Authy or Google Authenticator or one of these services that locks all of your TOTP codes away from you so that you can't easily export them, you're fine on these platforms. Aegis allows you to export, Ente allows you to export, 2FAS allows you to export, and you can go ahead and move between them. You can theoretically use all three of them at the same time, right? You can export from one and import it into another one, and you can use Aegis on Android, you can use Ente Auth on desktop, and 2FAS on your iPhone, right? They won't sync in real time across each other, but you can do that. So try them all. I frankly don't really care too much. It's mostly about just having a 2FA method. That's going to give you the best protection. And anything, comparing these services is splitting hairs at that point. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Ignore My Chan. Yep. Yeah, and actually, it kind of sucks this video didn't perform too well because I made this video about web apps, and I literally showed the clip of Steve Jobs when he was announcing the first iPhone in 2007, saying that all apps are going to be on the web. And initially, when they launched the iPhone, they intended to make web apps the future. And eventually, as we all know, that changed. They released an app store. They can make more money from an app store. They can have better vertical integration with an app store, all that stuff. But the original intent with the iPhone was to have an open ecosystem where any app developer can just do what they want in the web, and it works just as well, just as fast, just as secure as what you'd find with a native application. So it really sucks to see Apple shift in a different direction, but web apps aren't dead. Microsoft is embracing them on Windows. Obviously, Chromebooks are embracing them. In fact, I would argue Google, like, single-handedly has kind of brought back web apps. And even Apple now supports progressive web apps on Safari on Mac OS, which they have never done before. And on iPhones, web apps are starting to actually start to function like regular apps, where they can get notifications and they actually show up in your settings like another app would. So we're finally starting to see this world where web apps are getting almost first-class treatment. So big wins. I want it to go further, though. Like, I love web apps. I think that I'm very passionate about web apps, and I want to see more web apps. But it's a huge win where we're at. Oh, we got a win here from Gelb Phoenix, Gelb Phoenix. From the last week, from this month, I deleted and set my Instagram and Threads inactive, switching fully into the Fediverse. Congrats, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Fediverse. Big fan. It's based on open source tech. It's based on just open standards, interoperability, and potentially even hosting your own data if you want to, or joining a community that hosts your data and allows you to use it in a way that's best for you. I genuinely think the Fediverse is what social media should be. So highly recommend if you want like a platform to get started with the Fediverse. I think Mastodon is fantastic, is like a Threads alternative. And then also, why am I blanking? No, there's an Instagram alternative, and I even have an account. I'm just gonna go to my website. If you haven't checked out my website, check out my website. There's nothing to it really. Let's see here, PixelFed. So you can go to my PixelFed, and I haven't updated it in a long time. I should update it. But yeah, here's a photo with me and Linus Tech Tips at IHOP. That's where I met him. He was eating. I was obnoxious. I was too excited. I was very young then. Oh, I just realized I had that off the whole time. I will repeat what I just did because I did not switch screens. My website is here, henryfisher.tech. You can go ahead and scroll down to PixelFed, and you get kind of a preview of what this Instagram alternative is like. It's very clean, and then there's also Mastodon as well. Those are kind of like two nice entry points into the Fediverse. Sorry about that. Grand External liked my enshittification video and shared it with the family. Great, I'm glad they liked it. For a router for home, right? Like, I think it mostly comes down to usability. I think you can actually do a lot with even your ISP's router. Like, there's things you can do. You can obviously always have a VPN on so they can't get that much information about you. I think OpenWRT is fantastic. You can use something like a Pi-hole. I've seen so many DIY things out there. There's just pros and cons across the board. I don't have like a single option for you. I would just say like explore the options, see what seems to work best with your use case. You might have literally just a phone and a laptop on your network, and that's all you have, or you could have like 50 devices, and just those two things alone might totally change the options that you're going to go for. And who knows, maybe for a Pi-hole, I might get benefit from a Pi-hole, but I already have like pretty much across the board, I'm already able to block ads within my browsers. I don't have that many situations where I'm not using something in the web that has an ad blocker. And then I also have my DNS that also blocks ads as well. And I bet that if I was to put a Pi-hole on top of all of it, just for the sake of blocking ads, I know there's other features in the Pi-hole, I think it might do almost nothing in my workflow. So, but someone else might have like a TV at home, like a smart TV that they can't use with a custom DNS, that doesn't have an ad blocker, and that totally different situation. Like, now a Pi-hole makes a ton of sense. So my point is, there's tons of like pros and cons between these, and I can't really answer that without getting to know you a little bit better. But explore them all, see what makes sense for you, and try them. And if it fails, then try the next one. You can always try these things out. Experiment. Yes, Mr. Plasma had their Netflix password at just 6 characters, which they updated a few days ago. So congrats, do those checkups. That was a long time ago. Okay, that was 40. Oh, I got a lot to catch up on. All right, I'm gonna speed through this a little bit more. So I'm sorry if I skip anything. I just realized I'm moving pretty slow here. Let's see. That's a good question. I don't know if something supports Apple Live Photos. If someone knows, definitely share. Grand External, just a follow-up, they were the person that had all those big wins earlier, and they said that one of their sons is in the army in Korea, making SMS hard for us to use in a group chat, so they leveraged that. I asked how they were able to get so many family members on board with some of the stuff they're doing, so that's at least one tip. Send your son to be in the army in Korea. Obviously kidding, but obviously just try to find anything like that in your family. I don't think that is necessarily the solution for everybody, and I'm glad that you're making the most out of the situation with that. But in all seriousness, almost every family has some kind of like, like soft spot or something that like makes them feel in danger. And I don't think you should like manipulate or exploit that, but I think it's good to remind people of that and say, hey, we should prepare for something. Like, think about this, or we don't have access to this, and this would solve that problem. So there's normally a creative avenue that you can take to try to make things a little bit better for the people around you. Let's see, already answered this. You're always big for me, man. Wow. And that really spoke to me. I think they're referring to I was talking about my big version here, and they say I'm always big to them. Okay. Let's see here. Trying to find some good stuff to respond to. Peace out, Grand External. Thanks for leaving your wins and being in a live chat. And hope you get more wins. Sounds like you're on a good little streak over there. Yes, I fully agree. That would be awesome if the YouTube's mobile page had the ability to add videos to queue. What do you think about Floorp? I feel like we've made several clips about this. I'm not fully sold on Floorp. Personally, last I checked, it was just run by a single person, and it didn't have like unique privacy and security features you couldn't replicate on these other browsers. And a lot of things weren't even like properly translated across the board. So hey, if it works for you, I'm not going to tell you not to use something, but you have to remember that from my angle, like I'm recommending services to thousands of people, sometimes like hundreds of thousands of people. And so if I recommend something like Floorp, I have to recommend it with a lot of asterisks to make sure like, hey, just be aware of these restrictions and limitations. So I did consider putting Floorp, but also like that video, the video I just put out, the Firefox Alternatives video, genuinely, like I got like the top recommendations from the community. So I polled us on socials and people responded, and I kind of went through the top options, and that was how I put the list together. So Floorp was not one of the top options from the community, but even if I put the video together myself, I don't think I would have put Floorp, but that doesn't mean it's not, it might not be the Firefox alternative you're looking for. It is Firefox based. It seems to have pretty good values overall. I just think that it's pretty early for me to like call it an alternative. And I know people are already saying like, well, you mentioned Ladybird, and Ladybird isn't even out yet, but the thing is Ladybird is like got like a crap ton of like support, funding, and has like genuinely really good developers behind the program. And I very much added those asterisks I referred to of like, hey, it's super early on and we don't know what this is going to look like yet. So yeah, just general thoughts. I think if you like Floorp, use it, but it's not something I'm going to just outright recommend to people in its current state. And if that changes, then it changes, and I'll definitely update my stance on it. I update my stances on things like all the time. So If something changes, then I want to be along with that change. Let's see. What about the software that puts the metadata with the photos when the takeout is done from Google Photos? Ah, man, I forgot to look into that. If someone has that, please let me know. I'll even go ahead and have my phone out here checking on Signal. If any of you have me on Signal, feel free to DM me what that is. Or if you're in the Techlore private group, I'll go ahead and like keep tabs on that as well right now. It's open right in front of me. What I need is one more window for me to like look at and manage right now. Let's see. Yeah, and that's the other thing with Zen browser. I just, yeah, I'm much quicker to recommend Zen over Floorp. That's one more important note. So, yeah. Oh yeah, the lunar eclipse was today. That's cool. No one told me about that, so I suppose I missed it. Can anyone join the Signal group chat? I would have liked to join. Yeah, so because, well, one, like we have a public community already, the forum, and the forum has a live chat, so you guys can like still be a part and like mingle on our forum, totally free. You can join that for free. The Signal group though is meant to be like a perk for people who like support us and like are like really involved with what we do. I want to have perks for those people and like incentivize them and like give them a thank you. And it's a place that I can put my time into. Like I'm active in that group, a lot more active there than like the live chat on the forum, for example. So I can't be everywhere all at once. So that's kind of where I put a lot of my time. More importantly, Signal doesn't really have moderation tools. So like if we just had a public Signal group that anyone can join, it wouldn't be easy to moderate that, but you know, having like it be an exclusive community allows us to actually moderate the platform because you know we have to like manually approve everyone to get in. So it's a fun place to be if you want that, but you don't want to pay for whatever reason. I think the forum's the next best thing. It's free to access. There's still a live chat, but I definitely think it's less active and it's less like intimate than the Signal group. But different options. I guess, I mean, I can also say like there's other communities there too. Like I know Privacy Guides has their communities. Other creators on YouTube have communities as well. So like don't feel like you have to be restricted to our communities. There's other communities too. Yeah. I tried installing the Flatpak for Ente, it wouldn't work, and the same thing with other packages. Definitely report that to them. I can't help with that. I don't develop Ente Auth, but if you haven't already, definitely report that to the devs. They seem pretty responsive to things from what I've been able to tell. Okay. Oh my gosh, this is like a historically good question, so I want to go ahead and like tackle this. Do you think that using KeePass for saving your passwords and your two-factor authentication codes is a good idea? So this is a question that's come up a lot over the years, and I kind of evolved my opinions over time, but I think overall stayed the same. So really the question here is, should you store your multi-factor authentication codes inside of your password manager where your passwords exist? So I'm going to give you some pros. The pros, obviously convenience. Two, you're still getting a lot of security, right? Because the main reason we have multi-factor, like the main attack that we see out in the wild is there's a data breach and they leak your password. And, you know, people are going to go on, they're going to get your email, they're going to get the leaked password, they're going to put it in, and they're going to get into your account. If you have MFA set up, they're going to go, oh crap, there's MFA, can't get in. You can still do that. You have the same amount of protection whether or not your MFA is in your password manager. The likely attack vector is not someone hacking into your password manager. The likely attack vector is a specific service or multiple services being caught in a data breach that leaks some of your information. This is why it's very important to use strong, unique passwords, and that's what a password manager comes in. And it's also why it's good to have multi-factor authentication, even if it's in your password manager, because then if there is any of that leakage, then they still won't get access into the account. So those are kind of the pros and why I think it's good. And it overall, like if you don't have MFA at all and what's stopping you is you don't know whether or not to set up MFA in your password manager, do it right now, because having MFA in your password manager is hands down objectively going to give you better security than having no MFA and just a password manager. So I already want to start with that. In terms of cons, I think this is very obvious and it's why people ask the question. You have everything in one place. So while that is an issue, here are the situations, the specific situations where I think it is an issue. One, there's endpoint security, right? So you have, let's say KeePass, you ask about KeePass. Let's say you have KeePass, a password manager that's installed on your computer. But let's say your timeout is set to 1 hour, and let's say you're at a coffee shop, you leave your computer unlocked, KeePass is still unlocked, there's no timeout, you go to the bathroom, someone takes your laptop. Now they have access to all your passwords and all your MFA in one place. Whereas if you had a multi-factor authentication separate from that, like maybe on your phone, they would have had to take both devices and they would have had to unlock both devices to get into your most sensitive accounts. So endpoint security is improved when you're able to migrate MFA onto a different device or like a different program even that's locked with a different password. Anything you can use to separate will give you better security. The other situation where it's beneficial, this is extremely rare and I think it is the more common thing people are concerned about, is some kind of password manager data breach, where your password manager itself leaks all the data to some hacker or a hacker breaks into your password manager remotely. I want to make this clear, highly unlikely to ever happen. Even the worst password data breaches that we saw with LastPass, I don't believe like ever leaked necessarily like everyone's MFA and passwords all in one place. So even if you used LastPass during their crazy data breach with MFA in LastPass, you still would have been pretty well off at the end of the day. But I still don't recommend it if that's your main concern. So this is always going to come back to being a threat model question. I personally do not keep my 2FA codes with my password manager, mainly because it's so convenient nowadays to keep it separate. So back in the day when it was just Aegis and like, you know, something for iOS, but they didn't even sync, it was hard to do that. And back then I was more open to saying like, yeah, just keep it in your password manager because it's far more convenient. But I'm gonna be real, like I'm using ProtonPass and Ente Auth right now, and the convenience factor isn't that different. Like Ente Auth has cloud syncing, so it can be on all of my devices. It's a really clean interface, super clean to use. And ProtonPass, you know, I've already made my thoughts clear. I think it's a wonderful password manager, super efficient, super convenient. And yes, technically, like it would save me a few seconds maybe, like each time I'm logging in via ProtonPass, because it would auto fill in the TOTP code. But like, it's not that inconvenient. So pretty much, I think that if you're able to do it and you're willing to try a different service, give it a shot. I actually think that we're getting to a place now where it's pretty easy and not that big of a deal for me to recommend keeping them separate, mostly because of Ente Auth and 2FAS and all these services that are making TOTP both open and easy to use and still secure. So those are my thoughts, kind of ranty. Either way, do not just not enable MFA because you're concerned about the password manager thing. At minimum, just put in your password manager if that's what's holding you back. Otherwise, if you want to be better, move it to its own dedicated place. What you think is the best password manager between Signal versus Session? This would be a good clip, actually, if we end up clipping this. It's a good question, and I mean, if you go on our website, techlore.tech/resources, you're going to see we recommend, you know, Session, Briar, Signal, SimpleX. I think are the main 4 we recommend. I have to double check it. There might be a 5th one, but I think it's those 4 is the main ones. The reason they're all there is because I think they can all be used in a private and secure way, and they just gear each other towards different users. So Signal is centralized. It's through a single party. And they prioritize usability and the balance between security and usability. And they do a really good job of that, right? And ever since they released usernames, you're also now able to hide your phone number when you contact someone, which resolves like the #1 issue people have had with Signal for years now. So Signal is a very compelling option. It has extremely good security. It has fairly good privacy. It doesn't quite have anonymity because it still requires a phone number. With that said, the way they hash phone numbers and the way they treat themselves and the way they protect your information is literally industry standard. Everyone's trying to chase after like the way that Signal does things. With that said, some of the benefits of Session, it requires literally no personal information to register for. So if you want something with like real anonymity, it has that. It also is far more decentralized, and it's also got Tor routed, and it's got like tons of these other fancy features. But like, I don't even think the Session team would come forward and say that their usability is stronger than Signal's, or it's not, you know, like, you see what I mean? So like, I think that theoretically you can have both Signal and Session on your phone, use Session for more sensitive things, have Signal for like your daily contacts, people who you're trying to onboard from WhatsApp. And SimpleX is in a similar boat as Session for me, where the usability isn't quite there, but that doesn't mean it's not a phenomenal service that has great privacy and great security. And same with Briar, right? Like, they all kind of fall in the same camp. Personally, the reason why I love Signal is I think it's by far the best balance of privacy, security, anonymity, and usability. When you add all those four things together, the balance that Signal strikes between all of them is phenomenal. But this is all going to depend on you. If you need something with more anonymity than Signal provides you, then Signal's not going to work for you, and you're going to have to change to a different messenger. But I think there's nothing wrong with addressing the pros and cons of these different messengers, and they all have a place to exist for any of your threat models and use cases. So that's what I think the best messenger is. It's going to depend on the person, though at this point, I can't even remember the last time I used Session. I'm far more into Signal. And personally, it's by far like my favorite messenger that I use. But I have a ton of appreciation for these other messengers, and I interviewed Key Jeffries from Session, and that interview will go live soon. And of course, like SimpleX sponsors Surveillance Report, which is another podcast I work on, and I'm friends with. Man, I wish I could pronounce his name correctly. Evgeny, the guy who runs SimpleX, friends with him as well. So like, you know, nothing but like good vibes with these projects. So when I say this, I'm saying it because these are my honest thoughts about it, and I have appreciation for all the projects. Let's see. As a Brit, gotta say, sucks ADP's going away, but I've used Crypty as a backup for Apple Photos for a while. Since I already pay for Crypty anyway, hopefully Apple wins the fight against the UK. Awesome. Yeah, and Crypty has photos as well. Not quite like Apple Google Photos alternative. Crypty's more of like a focused experience, right? I'd say it's like a personal Instagram for yourself. Because it doesn't have like automatic backups, and it doesn't have like face recognition and stuff like that. But it's still a really cool service that all exists in the web and has end-to-end encryption and beautiful design. I mean, I love it. And like John and I are great friends. We were just chatting this morning about some stuff, and it's like always great to like catch up with the people behind the scenes on this stuff. What do you think of Fedora planning to make AI into the distro? First off, I have not seen exactly what they're trying to implement, so this is not a technical response to what they're doing, as just more of a general response to the concept of adding AI. I am not anti-AI. I'm not. I'm anti-privacy invasive AI. I'm anti-big tech AI. I'm anti-like biased AI. I'm anti-inaccurate AI. Like, there's a lot of aspects of AI I'm against, but I'm not simply against AI. I think if Fedora is able to roll out AI that's privacy respecting, is local and on device, is genuinely there for the user and not just to be, you know, marketing crap, then I think it's great. If it's anything else other than that, then I'm going to have issues with it. And not because it's AI, but because I don't want something that's privacy invasive. I don't want anything that needs to connect to the internet that doesn't need internet for. I don't want something that's marketing crap on my operating system. So those are my thoughts. I haven't seen what Fedora is doing. I trust Fedora to like still be solid and good and do it well, because I appreciate the work they do, and they normally do a pretty good job. So my guess is it's going to be good if they do it, but if it's not, I'll be more than ready to criticize it, because I hope it's good. So if you have more context for me, it's not something I've personally looked into yet, I would love to hear. Yeah, this was a big win from Samsung. Yep, this is big. I'm sure we'll talk about it in the surveillance report. PixelFed, yes, thank you for sharing that. Let's see. Ah, why did it skip? Henry's live. Yes, he is. I'm here. I'm live. Thoughts on Nostr compared to Fediverse? So all I'm gonna say is I used Nostr and I always hated using Nostr. I thought the usability was really bad, and every Nostr client I tried was really bad. So I'm not criticizing the tech, not criticizing the concept, not criticizing anything else outside of I just thought the user experience was awful. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Nostr. I haven't done like a deep dive into the tech behind Nostr to really like tell you how good I think it is compared to the Fediverse, but I will say that a lot of the tools that I use in the Fediverse are far more usable, and there's a lot more like robust clients and features that Nostr just didn't seem to have yet. Henry, how are you doing? This is from Austin. I think Austin was in the forum as well, so it's nice to see you in the live chat. I'm tired. It's a big day. There's a lot of like big stuff that I'm working on with Techlore, with Cake Wallet, with everything. So I'm doing well, but very busy, and I have some like big stuff happening this weekend too. But I'm really excited because I have a workout, like a running workout, after this stream. So like the moment I'm done with the stream, I'm gonna throw on some running shorts and get out of here and get a good run in. And then there's more work. But I always look forward to the runs, especially workout days. Like I look forward to it like all day, and it's like something to look forward to at the end of the day. Like a good running workout, like, oh my God, I finish the workout, I go take a shower, I get back into my PJs, and like I just feel like a new human. Like it's just so calming, so relaxing, and it just feels so good. So that's kind of what I have the rest of the day. Should I buy Synology NAS or just use my old Acer laptop with Linux server for escaping cloud? You already have hardware, right? You have hardware, you have it available. Try it first. Your laptop might be more than good enough for what you need. So try your laptop, try setting up a Linux server, see if it works for you, and then see what limitations come up. Maybe it's a software limitation. You don't like the software that you're using to use your old laptop. And then you're like, well, I actually really like the look of Synology software, so I'm gonna get Synology for the software. Or maybe it's an I/O issue, like you don't have enough ports on your laptop to reasonably connect enough hard drives, or maybe you just don't like the look, or maybe you don't like having an open laptop in your closet, and so a desktop would work. My point is, like, try it, see what you don't like about it, learn from it, and then buy whatever you need to fix whatever issues you had with the laptop. But if you already have hardware to experiment with this, use the hardware, and don't just go out and buy new hardware for the sake of it. So try it out first. Hope you can talk about Strongbox being sold to Applause at some point. Yes. Okay. I'm actually going to move back to the screen. Let's go. Let's screen. I'm going to make myself small. Boom. So this was already kind of discussed on our forum. So Strongbox is hands down my favorite KeePass client. It's macOS and iOS only, which is kind of a downside, of course, if you're not on those platforms, but it is by far my favorite KeePass client. It's got the cleanest interface, it's got awesome features. They even rolled out their own in-house features, like a local Wi-Fi sync. I know you can do it with SyncThing, with KeePass XC, but it does it in-house, all in one ecosystem. And it even has a clean syncing with iCloud if you use iCloud, which still has end-to-end encryption. Great client. Unfortunately, it was purchased by Applause. This is the same people that purchased Bartender on macOS. They also purchased like a voice processing thing. Let's see, where was it? They put it in the blog article. It's no secret here. One sec. Here, Voice Dream Reader and Nomo Robo. I hope I said that correctly. But they acquired this, and there's a notorious kind of bad reputation with this company for buying out good projects and kind of enshittifying them. People are concerned about, I guess I'll cover the concerns, right? Privacy concerns, I don't think it's like urgent. I don't think they're just going to push an update tomorrow that bakes telemetry, that removes encryption, blah, blah, blah. And actually, they've made a lot of commitments in the blog that like are, you know, if true, which I don't think they're just going to straight up lie about in the first week, they actually still like are committing to basic privacy and security. So someone already has opened an issue on GitHub for us to remove Strongbox. And you'll see this for our website and our resources. And pretty much because I don't see this as like a, you know, immediate privacy and security concern, I pretty much said I'm going to wait on this in a few days and see what happens. But it's very, very likely that I will remove Strongbox just out of precaution because this is not really a company that has the best reputation. So most likely we are going to be taking a look at KeePass, which is, you know, has always been my like second favorite on iOS. Personally, I don't think it has as good of usability. I never thought the features were quite as like robust and well integrated as Strongbox. But it is the next best option. And I think that at this point, it's going to be a safer recommendation and a benefit too. You know, there's always wins in this stuff. Strongbox never actually made themselves fully open source, and KeePass is open source and they've been audited. So they actually have some really cool things that are in some ways upgrades to Strongbox. So yes, we are losing like a really cool, like most usable KeePass client that's really clean, polished, but maybe this is like time for KeePass to step up and it might grow to like surpass the usability of Strongbox while still having open source and like audited and more security focused values. So maybe we'll actually get something that's better than Strongbox at the end of the day. Those are my thoughts. This just happened yesterday. Very new stuff, still unfolding. I'm still like forming my thoughts on it and kind of following updates. But yeah, it is kind of sad. Like I kind of left a comment here on the forum. Like this is my favorite like KeePass client, and it just sucks to see this happen. I don't think it's gonna like drastically change anytime soon, but I also just don't think it's ever going to evolve. A lot of the services that this company has bought, they kind of just stop evolving once they're bought out. So those are my thoughts. Let's see. Let's see. Where is Jonah? Jonah is ideally getting privacy guides back up, apparently. Apparently it's down. Have we discussed Photo Prism? No, we have not. I think Photo Prism is the one you can self-host as well, right? I think I've seen people host that on their Synology NAS. Let me go ahead and pull that up. And also, last call. I'm down to the end of the comments, so go ahead and start leaving any last minute questions, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up in the next few minutes. We've been on for like an hour and a half now, so about time to go, and I got a run to get to. Let's see. Photo Prism. Okay, this is not the one I was thinking of, I don't think. Hey, yeah, I haven't seen this. Cool stuff. Yeah, I haven't seen this. So if you have more thoughts, definitely share them. But I haven't seen this before. Simplex. Simplex. Okay, good to know. I haven't read too much about this. I did see it pop up in my RSS feed, so but I didn't like thoroughly look into it, so no thoughts on that. Do you have any takes on current non-smartphones and their viability for privacy? Yeah, not too much. You know, like I still have that Punkt phone that I did a review on, and like Pigeon, just their Signal client on there like didn't work for weeks. Their Reddit community like lost it, and hey, like I mean, it just aged like fine wine. Like if you watched my review, I literally mentioned like their Pigeon client, which is like the whole selling point of the phone. Otherwise, you would just buy a flip phone because that's what it is. It's practically a flip phone. It's a dumb phone, but it has Signal. And when their Signal client just has random outages all the time, and like it makes it hard to use the phone, it's hard to recommend the phone. Like it's just not reliable enough. So I've seen other dumb phones, but a lot of them are mostly just like, they're just smartphones that have been dumbed down, so you can do that yourself. Or if they're too dumb, then you don't get basic encryption. Like you can't use Signal, you can't use VPNs, so you can't like encrypt any web traffic if you have to use it for the web for any reason. So yeah, I haven't seen too much. Now, yeah, they have ran out. Yeah, I mean, go back in their Reddit. I mean, I think they had like a 3-week outage for Pigeon. They just fixed this, like, I think in the last week. I got an email for it. Like in the last week, they finally fixed Pigeon, and it was down permanently for like 3 weeks. Like no users had access to it on their phone. Luckily, they did update Pigeon so you can link it to other devices. So now, you know, if Pigeon has an outage on your Punkt device, you can still access Signal on a different device if you have a backup. But then at that point, what's the point of having the Punkt as your main phone if you're going to have to use the backup all the time? So, yeah, just I haven't found a great solution. Now, I will say some people I talked to behind the scenes, they're more technical and they can do cool things with their phones. So what some of them are doing is they're buying like specific like little tiny Chinese phones, and they are able to like manually flash Lineage OS on these phones. Even though Lineage OS isn't like formally supported on them, but they're able to kind of work around that and build their own images to work on these phones. And so then they're able to like scan, you know, they're doing network inspection to make sure there's nothing else. So yeah, I've seen people do some really creative things, but it's not really recommendable. And I'm seeing Jose here. Appreciate your thoughts. And it's really nice to see Jose in the chat. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Jose's channel, but Jose like exclusively covers dumb phones. So if you want to learn more about dumb phones, actually, I think, Jose, your resources are like significantly better than mine. He runs a whole website where you can like pretty much sort by like, you know, 4G, 5G, like support across different regions. Depends on like what kind of OS it runs. You can sort it by if it runs Signal or not, if it runs WhatsApp or not, which apps are available. Like your tool's awesome. So like massive props, massive shout out. I forgot like the exact name. So Jose, if you want to leave like the name of the site, it's something I've been on. I think it's like Dumb Phone Finder or something like that. But I just want to make sure I get the name right so people can check it out because it's like such a good resource. And yeah, if you haven't checked out Jose's channel, check it out. It's good stuff, and I'm a big fan. I think that's it for the week. So I'm gonna start wrapping this up. Jose, while I'm wrapping it up, go ahead and leave the name, and I'll try to shout it out before I'm done. So I want to thank everybody for leaving their wins in the live chat. Again, go ahead and join discuss.techlore.tech in the description, and you can already, right now, the moment you're watching this, join in next week's live stream. Well, you can join the privacy wins, and then I'll feature you in the live stream. So go ahead and join that. If you like what we do here and you want to support what we're doing, Patreon is a great way to do that. You can send us Monero, you can send us Ko-fi. Actually, we don't have Ko-fi anymore, I don't think, but we have LibraPay. You can also support us directly on our forum. Like we have Stripe set up on our forum directly, so you can go directly through us there. And also many free ways to support us as well. We have an affiliate link page on our support page, so techlore.tech/support. You can view all the support methods. They're all there. And I think that's all I have this week. So again, these are every week, so don't miss next week's. If you enjoy this and you want to be a part of a little like weekly thing, I want to thank you all for being in the live chat and making this possible and making this fun. And I love just chatting with you all, and it's a nice little thing to look forward to at the end of the week. So I'll see you over on the forum. I'll see you next Friday. And then Jose confirmed that it's called Dumb Phone Reviews or Dumb Phone Finder. So I think I got it right. So go ahead and check out Dumb Phone Finder if you are interested in dumb phones. Jose's content is also fantastic. So thanks for tuning in, and it's cool to see you on here. And